got two talks, very short. One is, it's called Historical Hypotheses and Facts About the Game of Go in Vietnam. It's by a Bulgarian who was one of the principal people in Bulgarian Go. His name is Konstantin Bayraktarov. He did some work in Vietnam. He noticed that, for example, that Go emanated from China all over Southeast Asia. However, in Vietnam, it's sort of a reduced presence. The game, by the way, is known as Kove, which means it's the same as Wei Qi. It's a surrounding game. And the Qi means logic games. It's sort of like a Qi in Chinese. And of course, the Chinese have had a tremendous influence in Vietnam, but they haven't really left a big footprint of Go for several reasons. Because it was, first of all, Ho Chi Minh played chess. And although he used Go tactics, or Go-like tactics from Sun Tzu, he preferred chess, and therefore chess was encouraged until finally the open economic policy in '93. And before that, basically Go in Vietnam was for the noble classes, you know, the sinicized noble classes. And this is true, of course, basically in all of Asia. And meanwhile, Xianxi, you know, Chinese chess is very popular in Vietnam. It's more of a folk game, and everybody plays it. Oh, come on. My computer just froze up. Jeez. Yeah. Sorry about this. Okay, there's various legends that refer to board games that go back as far as there's records. For example, a frog was watching two gods, the god of thunder and the god of rain, playing a board game. Now, we'll get to what the board game was in a minute, but in any case, the frog interrupted their game because they were so concentrated and there was no rain. And there's a Vietnamese legend that when frogs grind their teeth, it's going to rain. There's also a legend about a father and a daughter playing a board game while their city was being besieged, and they finally lost the war, but nevertheless they finished the game. There's also stone, like in China, there's stones on stone boards on top of mountains. And there's also in the pagoda, they keep Xianqi boards as relics. So perhaps there's Go boards, although nobody has really made a serious attempt to look. Okay. The problem with these things saying they're chess is it's long before chess was invented. So what happened was the Chinese went in there around 3 or 2 BC and made incursions. They set up a system as in Korea, like with garrisons. And at that time, the Chinese emperor was an avid Go player, so perhaps Go was introduced into Vietnam at that time. Like Korea, the same thing probably happened with Korea, but there's no records. It's only after the 10th century that you get some real records, because that's when they freed themselves from the Chinese. And the first thing they did was establish a martial arts and a military arts school, academy. So presumably they would have been playing Go then. There's also a rotten axe story that comes from the building of a pagoda on what's called Rotten Axe Hill. It's Fat Tik, T-I-C-H, 11th century A.D. And next comes, the Mongols like to invade Vietnam, and so they had a famous general, Tran Hung Dao, 1228 to 1300, who managed to defeat the Mongols by abandoning the cities and putting everybody up in the hills and leaving the cities empty. And this is, the same way, it's called a yin strategy as opposed to a yang strategy of bang. You just simply disappear. It's like Napoleon was beaten in Russia. And now it gets a little interesting because several decades later, the Mongols might have been considering the reasons for their defeat. Now, there was a debate, there may be some meaning in the debate between the Mongol Emperor Wenzong, who was 1329 to 1332, and a Neo-Confucian scholar from the Hanlin Academy, Yu Ji, from 1272 to 1348. And Chinese were only of sort of secondary importance then. And so it was not up to the rulers to learn, the habits of the underlings. And so, but in this case, maybe the Mongols were thinking, because the king asked the academician, he said, like, hold on. If I'm the son of heaven, do I have to be able to play Go? And Yuchi answered in the affirmative, and he quoted Confucius and Mencius. So perhaps there's some other meaning in that, which could be a little interesting. Anyway, in old Vietnamese literature, there are plenty of references to Go in the poetry, particularly in the poetry. There's anywhere like, he lists about a half a dozen poets. There's probably a lot more. Just an example, Ninggun Xiong from the Tran dynasty, that's 1225 to 1400, wrote a famous poem called Homeland. To play Go and to be eased of cares is a supreme pleasure. Drinking wine with a friend coming to visit you brings out memories of homeland. And this ties together the verbal and the nonverbal and the glass of wine, which happens in a lot of that poetry, to kind of expand the mind. That's the metaphor there. And it refers also to Confucius saying to meet a friend from far off places, isn't that happiness? And you get a lot of that in this poetry. He's got a paper, quite a long paper, which I helped edit, and it'll be up with the papers. And it's really quite interesting because all of this poetry he's been translated, and you can see these themes moving through it as the centuries passed. Now, there's a 17th century story about a Vietnamese king and a Chinese ambassador that could be apocryphal, but maybe it's not. But the Chinese ambassador thought he was a pretty good Go player, and so the king sort of challenged him. But the king had an advisor who was said to be a good chess player. Now, I don't know if it was a Go player or not. I mean, the record says he was a chess player. But often, by the way, in this poetry, you can't tell whether it's Go or chess that they're talking about. So sometimes it's specifically Go. In this case, who knows? But in any case, what this helper did, he dressed as a servant to hold an umbrella because they played out in the courtyard, in the hot sun. And the umbrella had a little hole in it. And he would point to the moves. And so therefore, the king called him, got a title, and called Best Player of Go or the Master of Go. So another story. And anyway, of course, in the Vietnam War, the old saying goes that, they were playing Go and we were playing chess, although Richard Boselitz says the opposite, but I kind of doubt that. But in any case, as I said, actually Ho Chi Minh played chess, but they did use Sun Tzu tactics, and that was, they won too. And recently now, modern Go, it's recovered. There's several Go clubs in Hanoi and throughout Vietnam. There's others. They first participated in the World Amateurs in 1999, I guess. And And then also, they've got like 5 and 6 dan players. They haven't got a professional yet, but they're on their way. And like I said, there's this long paper which I encourage you to read when it comes out, because it's really quite a remarkable piece of work. So I hope he's listening. Hello.
Whole of the umbrella stories, we have a very similar stories in early 17th centuries, played in between Tokugawa years and probably Maeda. And then Tokugawa years asked the Sansa to give some advice, because he usually lose to him, and he was hard. His pride was very hard. So Sansa just gives the information through the umbrellas, and then beat him. Actually, the supporter, actually he is not a high position, but he get angry and almost he pick up a knife, I mean a sword, and then try to threat the Sansa, the champion grandmaster. If you do this one more time, your neck is gone. Anyway, something like that. So it was a true story, and it's actually, we have a written record, and I don't know where that Vietnam story come from. Someone may similar the stories. I'm not sure that.
Yeah, there's a number of these stories that, I mean, you know, that are all through the Go area there in Asia. They're fun.
Yeah,
you know?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.